What's going on, everybody? I'm back with another video. This video is going to be looking at a proactive defense and how we can move through the thirds with a higher chance of winning the ball further up the field, closer to the opponent's goal and further from our own goal. So before we start, check out both my books. They're online, they're on Amazon, and there's links in the description below. But let's get right into the video. So first we'll start off by looking at the defensive base structure of a 4-5-1, and we'll use positional fluidity to maintain the principles of our defensive organization phase and look to give ourselves a higher chance at security and winning the ball back. Now we'll be playing against a base structure of a 4-3-3 with two advanced attacking midfielders positioning themselves between the lines, narrow fullbacks, and wide wingers. So as ball is circulated, we can see our midfield five is shifting across, maintaining staggering with our defensive line. So this creates a high level of spatial control with the staggering of these players, the diagonal connections between the midfielders and the back four, and these triangles represent the space that the midfielders can cover using their cover shadow, and then the space the defenders can block using jumping or man orientation by tracking runners where the blind side cannot cover. So now we can see with a five-man midfield, access to the wide area is very accessible and allows a shorter distance for our midfield five to shift across and pressure the ball to stop progression. And now when we shift back across, we'll see a structural change from the opponents, with them going now with two forwards and inverting a winger to then maintain a three-man midfielders, but now with two forwards, and now we'll see the fullback move into the wider area. So we have the ball shifting across with the structural change, and now as our defense shifts, we're going to undergo a structural change of our own, which sees now the creation of a back three or back five with two wing backs and three central defenders, and now a four-man midfield to create a 5-4-1 to create numerical superiority at the back to cover the two center strikers and still have the midfield three to block each of the central corridors using cover shadows and compactness principles. The opposing team's offensive shape will then accommodate this structural change to give them a higher control over their circulation by accessing each of the central corridors. And now we'll use our wide midfielder to press the central defender, because now with the wing back available to go a little bit wider, it makes more sense for our proactive defense to put pressure on the central defender in the half space to try and force another circulation or to force the ball into a deeper area. So now we have highlighted our two central defenders, and when circulation occurs, then they go into a deeper position to avoid access of our central forward, which then allows our defensive organization to step up and do so in a 5-2-3 manner, now increasing the height of our wide midfielders to then create access to the first line of build-up. So this is all in attempts to try and keep forcing circulation into a deeper area to then try and move into our mid-block. So then when the structural changes occur back to their base structure from each team, we now have our 4-4-2. So no longer having our 4-5-1, our number 10 jumps as a second forward, and our third central defender moves back into his natural position as a central midfielder rather than a central defender, and now we're playing against a 4-3-3 again. So the 4-4-2 or 4-2-2-2 allows us to have access on multiple lines and have a bit more staggering and more horizontal lines to cover the space in the midfield third and deal with the volatility that comes in the midfield third. So now as we press, we're looking to then now be more proactive and take a little more risks when we press to try and win the ball and create a beneficial offensive transition. So as we look forward, we use man orientation on the ball side to then press with our number 10 using the cover shadow to block the 6, dual roles across the weak side where play is less accessible to these players because of the positioning of the ball and the direction of our press, but we use man orientation on this strong side to block all the immediate outlets, and then we see the dual roles on the weak side where the ball is less accessible. So now we'll force the play back into the first third, and now we undergo our last structural change of the video with then a double pivot creating, and now an overload on this right hand side with the winger staying a little bit wider, allowing the fullbacks to each create width and now have access from a double pivot into each advanced space in the central corridors. So from here, when play is resumed, the first line pass is initiated, and the big thing is with a deep striker, we can have one of our central defenders jump into this position with cover from fullbacks and central defenders to then allow us to then create numerical equality through the midfield and advanced positions and not allow free players to arrive between the lines in the blind spot of our defenders because of our jumping central defender. And this can only occur when the central defender is not pinned by a more advanced player. So now our two central strikers block off the double pivot, so when play is resumed, circulation can't occur without the jumping of our number 10 or our second striker to then create pressure on the ball. And so from here we have to prioritize the central areas, so progression can't occur from the opposing team in these central positions. So we go with a 3-man midfield now with our wide midfielder tucking in because our opposite winger jumps to the central defender to create direct access to the first line of their build-up, and then having 3 central midfielders now or 3 players in central midfield positions allows us to have direct access to the double pivot, but also blocking any direct pass into the advanced players from the opposing team, and having our fullback jump to the fullback of the other team limits the options of the goalkeeper to play a mid-range pass, and with pressure on, it will be very hard for them to circulate possession and find a free player in a mid-range pass area. And we go with numerical equality at the back, but we have to take into account the distance that these players and even the mid-range players are in reference to the ball, because if the ball is played direct, they will have to travel at least 40 yards or so to arrive at its destination, which gives us ample time to position ourselves to secure a second ball or defend against a longer pass that has a lower rate of success. And that's going to wrap up the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.